Hello, world, and welcome to another episode of Americana. I'm Willie, Montague.
And I'm Shakhea, Hinton.
Today, we're going straight to the hearts of what's shaping America right now: power, accountability, culture, and the real-world decisions impacting everyday people. Because leadership isn't measured by headlines, it's measured by outcomes. And only here do we have the honest, unfiltered conversations about where America stands and where it's headed next. Buckle up, you guys. This is Americana. Well, you guys, coming up on today's episode, we're unpacking all the alleged assassination, plot unfolding online, and what it says about political violence in the digital age, examining how national disasters are handled by FEMA, discussing Melania Trump's rare call to unity in response to unrest in Minneapolis, and addressing questions surrounding whether Gregory Bovino has been removed. Well, let's get right into it. There is indeed some things going on. There is some assassination attempts against President Trump. There is a plot online. A woman in West Virginia has been arrested after alleging using social media to recruit people. I think it's hilarious. To recruit people to assassinate President Donald Trump, a disturbing escalation in online rhetoric that crossed into criminal action. Law enforcement says 39-year-old Morgan L. Morrow posted messages soliciting help in planning violence, prompting a swift criminal investigation and charges of terroristic threats. Why? First of all, I'm not even going to get into too much of my politics. Why would you get online and try to recruit a group of people to assassinate the president?
Yeah, that's dumb.
Yes, that's that. But what I want to say with this is, why are people trying to assassinate President Trump still?
Why?
Yes, why would they want, what? Okay, hold on, let me back up. He's like, hold on, let me break out the list. But I mean, is it that bad that a person, we had multiple presidents throughout these 250 years of our country. You know, they started with, Abraham Lincoln and so forth. But is it really to the point where people cannot lead as they feel that is in their heart to lead without someone trying to rally a group of people together to kill them? I mean, has we come to that place in this country?
I think it's across all party lines that we're seeing an assault on someone's life. So it's not just the president, but you reap what you sow. And I think this is probably the first actual attempt. Well, I take that back. That one with the ear thing, with the bullet grazing his ear, that was staged. So let's be clear about that. But historically, to your point, it has historically been noted that there are a number of presidents who have either had their lives, the attempting fact of having them being assassinated or actually going through with the assassination. And so, I mean, rhetoric plays a lot into this, and I think people are demonstrating it in various ways. This was stupid to go on social media to solicit folks. I mean, usually you do it underground or you have some type of secret society.
Something. Now, I'm not advertising, or neither am I giving the way for you to do it.
Yes.
But what I'm saying is that putting it out there in such a way, because of the climate that we're in, and I get it, where you're coming from. We're in a climate, we have a president that, there are a few people that do not like him, few people that do not like him.
Thousands.
And because of that, it's causing this. But again, I just feel like, what will you be able to do for 3 years? Because no one's going to get to President Trump. I do not foresee. Now, I know some of y'all think he's going to go out old age, but I do not foresee, a bullet, a knife, or some sort of thing like that is going to be what's going to take him out.
I do believe natural causes will take him out sooner than later. I don't think he will be assassinated. However, the person who would succeed him possibly could be assassinated.
This is interesting. Let me dive in that before we move on. Who do you think is going? J.D. Vance.
Yes.
Now, I've heard a lot of response.
That's the proper
back.
succession.
Right. I've heard a lot of feedback about that, interesting enough that people feel like he would be, and you've even said it's worse than.
Yes.
And let's talk about that. I know this is off, y'all, but why do you feel like he would be worse than President Trump?
Well, he has a way with words. He has the decorum. He has the couth in some regard to hold this presidential demeanor that many of us we're anticipating Trump having. So he would be able to sway people over with his words, whereas Trump has turned people off and even gathered some people into his fold by his rhetoric, the actions that he's taken, et cetera. But I think it's more cunning and it's more skillfully wielded with J.D. Vance rather than Trump.
I mean,
the plot still remains the same.
President Obama was pretty smooth with his words.
But he wasn't divisive. He was not divisive in this regard. And you cannot sit here and tell me that. You cannot. Now, granted, his life was threatened a few times. And early on in his presidency, he did have a few dozen people who were arrested for actually attempting to bring assault to his life. But over the course of his tenure as president, there was at least 40,000, I think, claims of attempts.
So you're trying to say by since it's already the first year with Trump,
that's going to be a little higher. Yes, that is exactly what I'm saying.
You're trying to say it's up to 40 million people that tried to get him.
Yep.
All right, let's move on, folks.
But I don't foresee him being here for his full 4 years.
She is trying.
I am not trying. I am just saying.
The
transfer of power.
President Trump's going to be here well into his hundreds.
Ooh.
So the United States is seeing a historic temperature during this winter storm. And this goes to question about FEMA and what's happening with underserved communities. And so let's dive into that, because I often hear that. I want to get your take on how do we single out these particular communities, or how does that we get those numbers from other communities based off of weather? Yeah,
so environmental justice is a real thing, where you have communities who have been redlined or who are under served or underfunded, who don't receive immediate assistance when it comes to natural disasters. So historically, we've seen FEMA tend to white or lighter skinned communities versus those who are marginalized Black or brown communities. And so when it comes to this storm, I don't know if the course is going to correct itself, but this is the first time that a natural disaster has happened under this administration. So I'm eager to see how Trump is going to respond to FEMA and allow them to do their jobs in blue states, because early on, he threatened to remove funding from FEMA if certain governors weren't aligned with his politics. And so,
but I thought FEMA, before that even happened, said they would run out of money anyway.
Yeah, I mean, the budget is tight across the board. But
this goes back to me with this is, and we've said this before, when does the state start stepping in? Why does it always have to go back to the federal government? Because we don't, even in blue states, people say they don't want so much overreach. It depends on who's the president at that time. The blue states may not want, a Republican president stepping in, vice versa. So if that's the case in any given time, we don't know who's going to be the president, in those next 4 years or 8 years. So why would it not behoove the states to step in and do the part that the federal government is doing?
Yeah, that would be a question for the state legislature. I believe they would have to come to the agreement about their assigned budget, and the budgets usually aren't determined until the end of session. So for example, Florida is currently in session. That session ends 60 days after, so what they're in, I think, week 2 right now. And so we have another a month and a half, 2 months for them to come to the conclusion with their budget. But I would agree to a certain extent, the state budget may not be allocated largely enough for FEMA. I mean, hurricanes hit Florida all the time. So if the damage is that catastrophic, what if the state budget is not as large enough to handle that? That's when FEMA should step in? Or are you saying that the state should regulate the entire
I believe
expense?
That when it comes to individual states, because we look at California, we know that the United States put out a WHO, which is the World Health Organization, and then California, from what I read, became the first state to independently sign up For who?
Yes.
So I said that if the states have that ability to do such as that, where is their ability to, trim the fat off your budget, and then take care, because you already know what national disasters hit your particular state.
Sure.
Now, in this particular thing, with this cold, people was not probably predicting it to hit some of the states that it did, but you do know that hurricanes going to come to these particular districts. You know, tornadoes, you know these things, you know flooding. So why is it that year after year after year, it's still, we need money from FEMA, we need money from these government? Why don't we have, SEMA, what is it, state emergency management? Like, why don't we have something like that where it comes out? And I know each state does have that. We do have our own little things that they have, but I just feel like, again, we need to just separate these levels of government and stop, trying to go to the federal government to get the stuff like that.
I mean, yes and no. I see your point. The state should get more involved and be more hands-on, right? But if you have a government and if you're a part of this union, you should be able to pull on, what's in store for the American people. It shouldn't just be solely the responsibility of the state legislature. I think the government, the federal government, should have a play in that. Probably not a large percentage, but they should also extend some type of aid or help and rescue, especially if we're trying to do America first, right? So that's my take on it. But then you have some states who allocate money in different areas, or they're trying to remove money with property taxes. Allocation happens, and so hopefully when these states are in session, they come to a good resolve for the constituents that put them in office.
Getting rid of that property taxes, but we will come on to the First Lady of the United States. She has called for unity. In a rare public statement, Melania Trump used a single powerful word: unify, to call for peace amid unrest in Minneapolis. Her message emphasized calm, healing, and coming together as a nation during the moments of division, highlighting the role of leadership and tone to times of crisis. Isn't that beautiful?
That's about the only word that she knows or can pronounce. No tea, no shade.
See, there you go.
Let's just call a spade. She's an immigrant. English is not her first language. And the irony of her being our first lady and her husband is very adamant about wiping America clean of all immigrants or who are not here legally. It's just really baffling. But hey, Melania girl, I think she is trying to get press time because her movie is coming out in theaters only. So another way that the First family is trying to capitalize on the American people. If you didn't purchase their Bible, perhaps you will go to the movie theaters and purchase the tickets, because it's only in theaters from what I'm told.
Well, what's wrong with that? It's only been in theaters. I think it's going to be a box office hit. Many people, even those who are not on the same side, are going to go out and watch the documentary. But to the First Lady's point, we do need unity. And this is interesting coming from the White House, because I know oftentimes people want to, make it like, okay, Trump is not interested in unifying. It's just the division. And so I think that her being the one that spoke out ahead of it, I think that's no one's going to come back and refute. I literally, a couple of days ago, after everything that happened with Alex Purdy, I literally put up, was like, we need to unite. And here, she comes back, so because everybody was like, unite under God, and like, we can't unite, we can't do that. And then here she comes like, unify. And so people don't realize that unity doesn't mean agreement. I think that's what people get confused with. Unity is a coming together. It means to do something that you do agree on. And if that which you don't agree on, you don't agree on it. But there is something in between all of that where there is a power of agreement in the United States. You don't have to like what I like. You don't have to agree with what I agree with. But if you see the divisiveness that is destroying our country, I do believe that there's a place that we can unite.
I agree. And I think we're seeing that unified front with those who are taking to the streets in Minnesota. We're seeing people across all party lines and all walks of faith coming together for a cause. They're agreeing with ICE needs to be removed from the state of Minnesota. That is their North Star at this point, whether they agree politically or not, right? But to her point, I think she's using the term unify. Unify, people are uniting in the streets, But I think what she is trying to reference is unifying with ICE or unifying with the current administration. That is what I am perceiving her term for unify, being in unison. But we're seeing everyone in the streets now who are on one accord. They all have one mission: get ICE out of Minnesota. Which also brings me to my point that Governor Walz and President Trump actually had a decent conversation. Do you find that to be interesting, or do you think that is progress in being unified?
I think I want to say this. I have not met President Trump, but I do not see, even when he met with the current mayor, I'm not going to mess up his name.
Mamdani.
Yes, Mamdani. When they met with him, they said, everybody was shocked. Oh my God, this, like, what is going on with this? All the rhetoric, and now he's together. And I think that at the end of the day, President Trump do want to have conversations. I think just like anyone who is in politics, and I'm being honest with you, when you're in politics, there is one thing to get on your social media, and there's one thing to get up and say something. There's another thing when you have to have diplomacy. Mm-hmm. And I think that so often people don't see the diplomacy that has to be had, because I'll use this as an example. If somebody's coming to me and saying, you got to go out there, because you got people that's like the media people. They're like, this is what your people want to hear. You need to go out there and say that. And then you have the reality of it. Hey, you need to go. I've heard all the time. You can go right now to any state legislator. You can go right now to D.C. and they look like they're about to kill each other. But some of them same people walk out that night and they're having dinner with each other.
Yeah.
And so I just think that we need to be honest in the way that we see it. All this stuff oftentimes is trying to draw us in and trying to get us to be angry at one another when they're sitting there eating steak and eggs and okay, now how are we going to do this on the floor? So I think that's what it is. I think he has diplomacy and people don't want to acknowledge that.
Well, and I think his diplomacy varies at the fluctuation of his medication. No tea, no shade. I really am not trying to be funny or facetious today. I think that there is an underlying medical situation with President Trump, and we see him bipolar in emotions and decorum because of his current mental state. I am not trying to be funny.
So you think that his dosage is too low?
It depends. If he is erratic and he is on a spree on social media and he's on Truth Social and he's writing all these dissertations about a certain topic and then he veers off, like, that is a manic episode. Let's call a thing a thing. That is a problem. Historically, we have not seen any president take to social media as this administration has.
Well, okay, let's be honest. In other administrations, it was not that much social media presence from politics like it is now. So it's a different era, because I wouldn't say that the Trump, in the last, in the 10, 15 years ago would have even been on social media.
Well, social media has been around. It's just but it wasn't really used
for politics.
It was not used. You are absolutely correct. So I agree with you on that. But I would say this administration is using social media in a different capacity than any administration ever has. They're using memes to get their message across. They're using AI videos to distort the truth. When they arrested one of the protesters last week, who she was the lead organizer for the church that they stormed, right, and interrupted. They arrested her and they posted one original photo of her with her hands cuffed behind her back, walking out, being arrested. And then the White House altered that picture of her crying with a distorted face. So it's like we talk about the levels of diplomacy and decorum and stuff. This administration is also bipolar in how they show up.
But we do have political cartoonists. And now in today's world, we have AI.
We're not going to do that.
So political cartoonists will exaggerate something. And I think that is obvious that people are drawn to it because it's funny. It's we got the laugh to keep from crying.
A black woman being arrested is not funny.
Not the black woman being arrested, but the fact that people take things, anybody, it doesn't matter whether they're black, white, or green. It's like people will take things and exaggerate it because it's just like a moment, like, no one's sitting there like, oh yeah, this like, well, I'm not gonna say this other meme that I saw because I didn't find it to be funny, but I saw what they did, and some people made it into a joke. I did not find it to be appropriate, and I did not like that particular meme that I saw, and I'll talk about it after things cool down. But I just find that this is where people are. I think people are they're tired of the same old thing. We said this before. Is it funny? I think I don't think politics is funny like that, or when it needs to be policy. But I think people overall is just tired and they want to just,
But you and I, we have differences in how we view politics, and when we agree on something, we toast to that because it's very few and far in between. But we do not hate each other in real life. We are very cordial. Like, this is what we do, not just for entertainment, but for political dialogue. Like, it's good to sharpen each other. It's good to have meaningful conversations. But this does not leave here once the cameras go off. Like, I'm not at your throat. I'm not wishing any ill will on you. So I think most people need to mature in how they're processing not policy, but politics. And it would help a lot with their mental capacity.
It would. Take a break. Dive into the pool. Well, it's cold out there. But so let's get into Gregory. Am I saying Bovino? All right. According to The Atlantic, the Border Patrol Chief, Gregory Bovino, has been removed from his position. So let's get into it. The chief has been removed.
Little man is gone.
So what do you think this means?
I think that phone call with Governor Walz and President Trump was very cordial, like they mentioned, but I think the demands, or either the requests from Governor Walz, was asking if we could bring the temperature down in my state. And what that would look like is if we reassigned, or if you remove the face of ICE from my state, the temperature will drastically decrease. The presence of ICE is what's inciting all of the riots. It's inciting a lot of fear and chaos in the man's state. And he probably just asked, hey, if you want me to comply, I need you to also comply and help me do my job. Help me to help you. Probably is how that conversation went.
So, but does this chief go to every single place that ICE shows up, or he was just deciding to take camp?
I don't know how he was assigned in various locations, but I know that his position was named at large. So he was the chief border patrol at large. So I don't know if he had obviously he had jurisdiction over the entire thing, but now that he's been I don't know if he's been demoted or if he's actually been removed altogether from this position, but from sources, they said that he's going back to his former position in California. So we'll see.
Because was he the one that I saw walking down the street? Now, I don't know if this was doctored. Walking down the street with what they thought was like the Hitler outfit, whatever. Yeah.
That was not doctored at all.
Now, what I would say is, and I did not know this, you guys, but after that, I started seeing people show videos that they actually do get these jackets in the military. I did not know that. I did not know that these jackets was a thing. So nonetheless, but he's not white.
What is it, Willie?
Maybe I need y'all got a picture. Because I what was this person I saw had a deep tan? I thought he wasn't white.
He is a white man with a mustache.
Oh Lord.
And he fits the part.
Well, they said Hitler was black.
I'm not going to do this with you on today.
I'm just saying.
Not going to do this with you on today.
They said Hitler was black.
We're not going to do that today. Well, all right. We've been agreeing on a lot of stuff today.
They said he was just a little light-skinned.
You finna.
But I'm going to let that go.
I appreciate that.
Hitler's gone on.
Yeah.
Well, so they say.
Child.
Anyway.
Well, what do you think this will do for ICE if this man has been removed? What do you think this will do?
I don't think it's going to do too much for ICE. I mean, it may lower the temperature in Minneapolis, but I don't think that ICE is going to go away. I think that they may just come up with a strategy of who is the face of it. But at the end of the day, because maybe this should have been a discussion had in the beginning, but now that we're so far into it with ICE, I don't see where ICE is just going to just disappear because there's not a chief. It's just the same way with any other type of leadership. The leaders just change.
Yeah, that is true. They could just shift him, reposition him to something else.
Right.
Within
or just have not show up as much.
Well, we never know with this administration, but we'll always talk about it here on Americana. I'm Shakhea Hinton.
And I'm Willie Montague.
We enjoy y'all every weekday. Please join us here again tomorrow, same time, same place on AFRO TV. We'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.
Good night.